Hello and welcome to Comic Book Junkies. I'm your host, Andrew.
Your other host, Joe.
And today we're going to be breaking down a few different things. We're going to talk about the Death of Superman trade paperback from the early 90s. We're going to be touching on some of the Zatanna news you may have heard recently. And we're also going to break down our 4th of July habits, Christmas in July. Hopefully you guys will enjoy that breakdown as well. So today we're just going to start off talking about the Zatanna news. That's the most recent thing, and we thought it was the most interesting piece of comic book news to talk about. What are your thoughts, Joe?
As far as the DC movies go, my two favorites have been Shazam and Wonder Woman. And I think most people can agree that Wonder Woman was a pretty good movie. And Zatanna is a pretty important character to comics, and especially a female character in comics. So the idea of giving her own solo movie was very smart on DC's part. Now, my only hesitation is that because she's so heavily associated with the Justice League Dark, I think that her solo movie would either have to tie into something like that, or they should skip doing a solo movie and just go straight for something like Justice League Dark. What are your thoughts?
This is totally just going to be a lead-in into that movie, because I believe J.J. Abrams just signed a deal. His Bad Robot Pictures or whatever, his production company, they signed banning deal for probably TV, movies, all that stuff, and it's all centered around the Justice League Dark property. Who's really better to lead into that? I feel like it'd get a lot of people that are kind of on the fringe about superhero movies or DC characters like that, because to the common person, she's pretty obscure. She has Silver Age origins and she's badass. They're going to get her. I mean, obviously Constantine's going to come into play. I'm sure the Demon will be there in some facet. Swamp Thing. I'm sure this is at least just the beginning. They've stalled out production on the Justice League Dark properties a couple times now, but hopefully this does actually get the ball rolling and it isn't just another substantiated rumor. But I'd be very excited, because if we can get a big screen Justice League Dark flick and we can actually get a good Zatanna movie, it'd do wonders for DC trying to compete with Marvel in the movie field.
And they're trying to get a feel for what works in the movie industry. And because I think Wonder Woman was so successful for DC movies, current continuity, Zatanna would be a great next addition to their solo film. I would like to see it lead into some kind of Justice League Dark arc, because like you said, a lot of her stories are kind of associated with those characters, and I would like to just see everybody on the screen.
That's totally the plan, and I think that if that actually goes off well, we're definitely getting that movie, because this is just the groundwork for that movie to get set up. But I'm calling
it now. If Keanu Reeves plays Constantine, it's going to be a hit.
I don't think he's doing that, but yeah. you, bro. But I think it's good. It's just another flavor that DC's going to have in their repertoire, because Shazam had its own goofiness, had its own flavor of it, and then Wonder Woman had its own taste. It was, like a war piece, but also an origin story of sorts. So I think that getting into the dark aspect is definitely going to be good. A little bit of horror vibe going in there. Should be solid.
The Justice League cast is so good, and they have a really good Justice League Dark cast too. So there's a lot to work with.
For sure, dude. And I mean, that's all I've got on that. You have any closing thoughts on your Zatanna news?
That's it. I'm just hoping they move forward with it, and I'll be excited to watch it whenever it comes out. A lot is subject to change because it just started in production, but we'll keep you posted with news and our thoughts on it.
And on that note, let's get into the meat and potatoes and the bulk of this episode. As big DC fans, if you couldn't tell, we've already got into a few other classic stories, but what's more classic than the death of Superman? Who could have thought it would have happened, especially back then? But it happened. And you know what? It was pretty badass.
So this is a story that's more known about rather the event than the content. As a comic book junkie, nobody's ever said, read this. Nobody's ever come to me and said, this is a great read. Everyone's just kind of it's an important event, but more historically. Reading this retrospectively, it was actually one of the better story arcs that I've read in comics, and so far I'm really excited to talk about it.
I thought it started really strong, kind of started to peter out as far as the depth of the storytelling. Nonetheless, the story moved, it progressed quick, and it gave you everything you wanted. It was 90s in a bottle. There's a bunch of simps running around, the Superman's looking buff as shit. It was cool. This is kind of not a huge story when you really think about it. It's kind of a quicker read than I thought it would be, at least the digital reader that I had read.
Comes across 7 issues.
Somewhere around there. We're going to go ahead and just kind of break it down, move kind of through the plot, got the abridged version, don't worry. Just through each issue, kind of give our thoughts, what was interesting. Let's start it off with Man of Steel 18, the first full appearance of Doomsday.
It was created by Dan Jurgens. This story takes place across a few different issues. So it starts with Superman Man of Steel issue 18. Then it moves to Justice League of America, to Superman, to Adventures of Superman, to Action Comics, and then back to Superman and Man of Steel. A few different issues. I would prefer reading it in trade because those individual issues are going to be hard to collect. But it was made in 1992 and ended in 1993. The story takes place in Ohio. Of course, that's the origin story of Doomsday. And what's your opinion on the first issue?
First issue was actually sweet. Got off to a quick start. I remember being a young collector and buying that first appearance with him in the OG containment suit. That shit was badass. Like reading, I'm just like, okay, this is pretty good. I don't know if they're trying to be hilarious, but it ended up being very hilarious.
I think the humor is intentional.
I sure hope so, man. It's like, man, they're just really trying to put him over the top, dude. Like he's a wrestling villain or something. This dude's coming in here. He's punching through walls, trying to get up into Ohio. Makes no sense. He's just standing there. He puts his hand up and he's like experiencing Ohio nature. Lo and behold, a little yellow bird comes flying over, lands in his hand. And then the next panel, he's fucking squishing it. And you just see the big red letters. Ha, 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 ha. It's like, what a brute, dude. He's just standing there like crushing stuff and just cracking up.
Burger. Do you ever read of Mice and Men?
Yeah.
There's a story where Lenny, one of the main characters, he's kind of very friendly, like a gentle giant, and he's either petting a bird or a rabbit or holding one, and he fucking squishes it. Doesn't know his own strength. This is kind of like that, except like Doomsday had all the intention to fucking squish this thing.
Dude, I know. It's crazy, dude. He's like, I need to kill it. It's like, what's your problem, bro?
He's been in that containment suit probably too damn long.
Yeah, but what, dude? Is it like stinking there? Like, what's the problem?
I bet it's pretty stinky.
It's got musk. He's like breathing on it and his little goggles are fogging up.
Well, why else would you be angry enough to fucking squish a bird?
Dude, how does he piss in that suit? Does he piss?
He probably doesn't eat. He probably doesn't pee.
What does he do? He's just always mad.
Yeah, always mad.
Dude,
Yeah,
he's like my dad when someone touches the thermostat.
Oh, that's funny. That's what I like about Doomsday is that he's so single-minded. It's not very nuanced. It's basically like, I have something in mind and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and I love how like the writers really are trying to hammer that home. Oh my God, he's hate incarnate. You're just saying that out loud like all the time, like every issue, everyone's like, Jesus, this guy hates stuff. It's like, you don't say. He's out in the woods strangling deer like he's Ted Nugent. What is he doing, bro? He's beating up Guy Gardner.
The first issue actually is pretty strong. The containment suit actually looks really cool.
Oh, yeah.
He has one arm freed, and that's kind of how he beats through the casket and onto Ohio land. Wasteland. But later on, it explains how he got in the containment suit, how his hand got free enough for him to be exposed in that nature. I really wish they would have added that in the original arc, his origin story.
It's kind of like they just introduced this dude on the scene for the sole fact, yeah, we want Superman to die, but who's going to do it? We're going to make a giant, bony, buff monster guy, and we're not going to give him like any depth other than he hates, and he's strong as hell. It did the job. He's like classic now. He looked god-awful in Batman vs. Superman. He looked like a Lord of the Rings orc or something. That was dumb. Honestly, pretty classic character for joining the Legion of Superman villains. He's a good addition for being as recent as the 90s.
And reading this arc, I kind of wonder nowadays why he's not emphasized anymore. We talked about Snyder Cut in the last episode. He was the main villain for that, and it was mostly some CGI bullshit, but he's actually a serious villain. The way that they wrote him, he could be one of the best Superman villains, and so this arc definitely did him justice.
I also kind of want to take it back. I tend to get ahead of myself. There's so many things I want to touch on in this story. Let's go back towards like the beginning when there was like that kid running around on a skateboard or whatever, and there's the underground.
There's two main things going on in this first issue. There's Doomsday kind of breaking out of this metal casket in his containment suit, trying to free himself so he can do whatever damage on the world that he wants to. And then there's this side plot going on where Lois Lane is captured by some Goonies. And
no, dude, underground simp gang.
Yeah, underground simp gang. Superman's trying to figure out where Lois is.
And I love that like the big part of their plot is that the underground simp gang just wants to turn the power off so they could take over the city. That's what they say, but really nobody just wants to fuck them with the lights on. So they're just trying to... They're like, let's just take down the whole power grid so no one can see us.
That's hilarious.
The young kid, his name's Keith. He comes down there. He tries to help and save Lois because he realizes his mom's not down there. And he's homeboys with Superman, apparently. Superman comes down there, makes quick work of the simps. They don't know what to do.
Doesn't he?
Dude,
so,
for sure.
First, they capture Lois Lane. And this homeless dude named Charlie's like, that's that Dame Lois Lane. She volunteers at the soup kitchen where I eat.
Like, what that
like,
smell
no
like?
Fucking way. The soup kitchen, right? Later on, Superman goes to recover Lois Lane. This guy named Claw or Clawsters in the fucking way of Superman eating to Lois Lane, and he sticks a fucking grenade in Claw's mouth.
That was cool. He force-fed him a grenade. He says, eat this.
Right. A little backstory for Superman. He's traditionally like really wholesome, a really like good dude, not one to kill. And he did not hesitate to stick a fucking bomb in this guy's mouth.
He says he knew he'd be fine, so he's like, oh, I could do it then.
As long as he'll live.
He'll be good. Oh, damn.
A lot of good things going on just in the first issue of the story.
Let's go on to JLA 69, the second issue of this, because this also had some great moments. First off, I'm looking at the JLA roster from back then, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? I mean, I get it was like the like the Maxwell Lord like era type stuff, and they had Mr. Miracle in there sometimes, but we had kind of like the fucking C Squad. They couldn't send anybody less prepared, so they sent they sent Bloodwind. Okay, he's a edgy vampire fella. Maxima, who dat? We got good old guy Chad Gardner. I liked seeing him. Chad Gardner's the boy, man. He's so cocky and he's always talking mad shit. He just wants to kick ass, pick up chicks. Turns out he's not even a Green Lantern anymore. I don't know how the hell he's doing anything really. We got Blue and Gold though. That kicked ass because Blue Beetle and Booster, it's a good combo. I like it. It's goofy, but like they're down to like whoop ass. It reminds me of Booster. He says, let's capture Doomsday before they knew what he was called. And they're like, let's put him on a talk show. It's like they wanted to like take him around like a circus chimp or something and put him on the TV circuit. It's like, are you serious?
Oh, pretty unprepared cast.
Dude, yeah, they don't know what the hell's going on.
Definitely gives an old school vibe. As far as reading comic books nowadays, reading this is a completely different wave.
It's refreshing. Like even the parts that are bad, it's just like it's simple. It's like there's not a lot of hidden meanings or things to really ponder, think about later when you're in the shower at night, looking out the window at the moon. You're just like, man, what did he mean? This is just good old wham pow. Let's get it done. Let's fight this guy and let's save Metropolis.
Facts. Another thing to highlight that from issue 2, like you were saying, he was quick to strangle a bird. I don't know if it was in the beginning of issue 2 or later on in issue 2. Don't remember, but Doomsday sees a deer.
Yeah.
Strangles the thing and then throws it at the ship that Blue Beetle's flying in. And he knows dude. Blue Beetle can't fly.
It was so cool, man.
Strangles a deer and chucks it.
I like the part too where he like prior to that, he's just standing there. He's walking through the forest and he just looks over and there's a panel of them just making eye contact. And this deer has no idea what's about to happen. I'm like, what's he gonna do? Punch it? It ain't gonna be good. But he grabs it by the neck and just holds it like he's trying to shake his pockets loose for some milk money. It's like, it's like, what are you doing, bro? Oh man, stuff like that we don't see enough of today.
We can take a few steps back, make it a little more simple and a little more enjoyable.
Yeah, dude, not everything's Harry Potter. Like, can we just get some dudes punching each other in the woods? Like, oh man, it's crazy. And I mean, the whole subplot during this one is Superman's just getting interviewed and everybody's asking just largely boring and dumbass questions until one person's like, what about your fears of like innocent getting injured, your own mortality? And he's like, all like that's his biggest fear. I never heard him talking like that before. This is some obvious foreshadowing. He's like, oh man, I really worry about the innocence. Well, of course he's gonna say that, but he's like, what about my own life? It's like, bro, you've fought everybody on every planet and you're fine. In this story, you're like, yeah, I'm probably gonna get it soon. Whoa.
Yeah, it was a different light that we never see Superman in. He's got this really cool quote during that issue too. He says, I wish violence wasn't necessary, but violence is the price that we pay to accomplish a greater good. And heroes, we choose to protect that good with our lives.
Yeah, dude. That's a good quote. And it also just reminds me of the Peacemaker, which is a man who loves peace so much, he's willing to fight for it.
Yeah.
Tell me that ain't fucking cool. God bless. This story also had some more cool stuff. Pretty much just the JLA getting tossed up left and right, especially Blue Beetle. You catch that, bro?
He got his fucking wig split. I don't know that he did live.
Dude, they were like talking about not even saving him.
Oh, fuck, Burger. After reading this whole series, do they ever go back and check out Blue Beetle?
Dude, he's been in the hospital for about 10 issues now.
Since the 1990s.
Bro, he has no powers. He's literally Diet Batman, and he's getting punched by Doomsday. It's like, he's not
got
well.
Soggy Cheerios for brains, bro.
Dog, it's just a bad time. The issue just ends. The whole squad just gets roast before Superman shows up. And it's
then he has to show up.
He has to. Otherwise, he's going to a big
squad
funeral.
got roasted.
Oh, damn, dude. That's all I got on that issue. But these were two of the strongest issues I thought of the whole story.
Yeah, it sets the character up pretty well.
I was really excited after reading those. Because next we move on to Superman 74. And
is that the issue with the burning house?
Yeah.
That was a pretty good issue, too.
It was good. Well, it's just like, you know what? The more I think back on it, that shit cracked me up too. Like I was just saying, it starts off with Maxima just being a huge bitch. And she's just down to let Blue Beetle die. So that's at the beginning of this issue. She's just like, no, I gotta go fight him. And Ice is like, please, you're the only one who could save him. And she's like, nah, it's my duty to go fight. Bro, just save him, bro. You don't stand a chance.
They're like, Superman's coming. Can you please take Blue Beetle to the hospital?
He's like, no. But then, like you were saying, the skateboarder kid, he's so 90s. And he's fucking skateboarding around to his little house with his single mom and his kid sister or whatever. And bro, was he roasting his corny ass mom for making his dad leave.
I felt bad for his mom.
Yeah.
He was rude as hell.
He was like a terrible child. I would have like fucking smacked his ass. And it's like, he was talking all that shit because he was pissed over like a can of Pepsi. He's like, Dad has Pepsi at the apartment, Mom, you stupid bitch. And it's like, she's trying to raise a kid on her own. Who cares if Dad has Pepsi? Grow up here, bucko.
Right. She's like, sorry, I got really busy today, but I promise to get the groceries tomorrow. And he's like, fuck you.
Sorry, I'm trying to breastfeed your sister and fucking be a nail tech at the same time, but I couldn't make it to Kroger for the Pepsi.
It's a weird family dynamic. But
dude, I know.
Finally catches up to Doomsday in that household for whatever reason, right?
Of course.
They're throwing back, punches back and forth, and Doomsday throws him into whatever's left of that house. And the family's still trapped in this house at that point. They're screaming for help, and Superman's chasing Doomsday while this house is on fire, and the kid's screaming, please, Superman, please come back. I thought that was a pretty good cliffhanger to leave this issue on, because A, do you take care of Doomsday right then and there so he doesn't kill more people?
Right.
Or B, do you help the family that's in that burning house and then let Doomsday just go on some kind of rampage to kill more people?
Yeah, that's a good question. Generally, Superman's got to come back, but like he's really talking himself into. He's like, kid'll be fine. He's like,
I was actually surprised with the outcome. Yeah, Superman chases Doomsday. Somebody else picks up the kid.
It's crazy, bro. I mean, they're really building up and trying to put over Doomsday as a legit villain because he literally had Superman and the whole JLA all concentrating all of their blasting and zapping powers on him, and he just shook it off. And then Booster Gold got his head slammed in a car door. Jesus Christ. He should be dead too. I'm moving on to Adventures of Superman 497, which I thought was probably the first less than stellar issue where not as much happened from what I recall as the first three issues. But we do find out that Superman turns back around, family getting saved, Doomsday's wrecking everything, and Soup still can't handle it. But I know that you liked this part for sure. When we go to the TV studio, we see good old Jimmy shooting Turtle Boy. That's hilarious.
So to backtrack a little bit, Superman saved Lois in the first 2 issues, right? Her and Jimmy are called to report on Doomsday because Doomsday is on a fucking mission to get to Metropolis. From Ohio to Metropolis. That's his goal. It's as narrow as that.
Goal.
And Lois just was like, come on, Jimmy. And the dude's fucking on television being filmed in a turtle suit.
Yeah, dude, Turtle Boy. It's a reference to his old Silver Age adventures back when everything was goofy.
Very cool reference. It was very funny to read in this story.
Yeah, I know. It was a good like little nugget that like didn't need to be there, but it made the issue redeeming.
There were some cool quotes in that issue too. There was this part where Doomsday's fucking up a cop car and the cop says, "Chief, I think I'm gonna need a bigger gun." And in the movie Jaws, they do the same thing. I think I'm gonna need a bigger boat. So issue 4 was pretty quotable, but it basically just moves that story forward where Doomsday is on a mission to get to Metropolis and Superman's doing everything he can in his power to slow him down, but there's no slowing down Doomsday.
To end that issue, they had Maxima and Superman fighting Doomsday together, but Maxima, she creates an explosion that knocks out both of them. Doomsday just dip. And it's like, thanks for nothing, lady.
First, she has a problem with saving Blue Beetle, and then she fucks up Superman's plan to stop Doomsday.
He's like, don't do that. She's like, gonna do it. And he's like, please don't. And she does. They're both like incapacitated. And that goes right into Action 684, which gives me another great moment. The fucking Guardian rolls up on his little motorcycle or whatever, and Superman just straight up disses him to his face. And he says, doubt you would have helped. And it's like,
that hurt.
And then after that bit of high comedy, it just goes right into them putting over Doomsday again, which I like their commitment to putting him over like they're the WWE or something. But Superman's literally talking to himself. He says, he's the strongest I've faced. He's stronger than Lobo. And it's like, you forget back in the 90s, Lobo was hot shit. That we don't see him around as much as we should anymore, especially when they tried to do Twilight Lobo before they brought back the main man. But at that point, Lobo was one of the biggest powerhouses Superman had to deal with. And he's like, man, Doomsday makes him look bitch made. And it's like, bro. So it's like, you know, he's not going to have a good time. And they literally fought the entirety of like every issue, and Superman ain't gaining an inch. And then the best part too is when they're fighting at the Lexmark. Doomsday, not only are they at Lexmark, but Doomsday stops in front of a TV and he watches wrestling. And the wrestler who looks like Hulk Hogan is cutting a promo talking about Metropolis. And that's when Doomsday's like, Metropolis. Just keeps muttering it to himself. And then Superman's like, God damn it, I hope he doesn't remember that. And then as soon as they start fighting outside, he's like, sees a sign that says Metropolis. He's like, Metropolis. And Superman's
gotta
like,
get there.
Damn it. He's like, bro, that's the one place you can't go.
He fucking sees a sign for it. Oh man. And this whole issue too, Supergirl's just like, hey, should I help my cousin? Lex's son's just like, no.
The Supergirl, I didn't read enough 90s comic, but that's not Supergirl. Because remember, she died in Crisis. This was only like a few years later, pretty much, called Matrix. Now, see, I'm not into obscure 90s characters, but I don't know, I guess Jeff Johns and some other people tried to reiterate it like in the 2000s. I thought that was weird too. I was like, what is she doing here? And then fake Supergirl and Ginger Lex Jr. hanging out. And it's
right,
like,
because that wasn't actual Lex Luthor either. It was Lex's son.
Yeah, old like Abraham Luthor with his old honest Abe Luthor.
And he loves him some Matrix.
Yeah, he loves him some fake Supergirl. It's kind of a weird fetish, dude. It's like, I'm sure they sell blow up dolls, but you're fucking rich. But it's weird. He's talking sweet nothings to Matrix, who I don't even know what Matrix is, but you saw her get roasted by Doomsday, and it clearly looked inhuman.
Well, she has like a similar outfit to Supergirl.
The exact outfit.
So that was a little confusing, deceiving for people who are reading retrospectively.
Yeah, unless you understand like the whole context of like the overarching universe at that time period, it's kind of like, wait a minute, she just got roasted by the Anti-Monitor, tie into the last episode.
Yeah, she even brings up that, hey, Lexmark got smashed. Should I step in at any time? He's like, no.
I got insurance.
Yeah, I got insurance. Why is he doing that? Do you know?
Dude, I don't know. I need to go deeper into this whole time period and kind of get a better sense of the whole story, how we got to this point, because frankly, I'm unfamiliar. But it just came off kind of random, but for the sake of the story, I just went with with it. I'm like, okay.
Because Lex Luthor definitely would have talked her out of joining Superman because he would hope that Doomsday actually finishes him off. But it seemed like Lex's son was kind of unrelated to Lex in that way, that he wasn't completely evil. So I didn't understand why he was so interested in getting Matrix to stay home and not help Superman destroy Doomsday.
You know why he wanted her to stay home?
Yeah.
He wants that Matrix box, boy.
Boy.
But that's pretty much the bulk of that issue, other than, once again, Superman's like, this is the hardest I've ever fought. And then he's getting tired and he can't slow Doomsday, and they're fighting at Cadmus. And also notice how Cadmus isn't used anymore. They don't need to be used surplus, as Cadmus is like me. But that's just like a thing that we don't see very much anymore.
I think it's more prevalent with the Teen Titans stuff. You know, when I was reading or watching the new Teen Titans, you know, a lot of that stuff had to do with Cadmus Labs. And it makes sense. I like that they brought that back into this continuity, wondering how Doomsday got created and who to blame for it, because Lex is obviously not Lex Luthor in the series.
That's all I got on that issue. I'm going into Man of Steel 19, bro. We're in the home stretch here.
Yeah, we are. 2 issues left, right?
Yes, sir. I made a note here, but that we already touched on multiple times in our disdain for Ohio. But I put here that he left Ohio for Metropolis because, of course. And, and he's full on out of the containment suit now. He's a giant brute with the bony. He's got the shit on his eyes. He's got the bones on his fists. He's got the bones on his elbows. He's all boned up. He's just full on out of the suit, which is bittersweet because the suit does kick ass, but it makes way more sense for him to not be in that. And I also just made a note here that it was really good to see Ma and Pa again.
Yeah, it really was.
It's so wholesome, bro.
Superman was raised correctly.
Yeah, dude. Born in the heartland. He's middle America.
For those who watch Smallville, they probably already know, but Superman's obviously got powers, and they're putting up some fences, and his dad asks him, Pa Kent, to put up some fences with him. He's like, I can literally do this in a matter of seconds. And he says, you know, work keeps a man honest. And so that's what Superman did. He slowed his pace. He didn't use his superpowers. He just put up that fence just like any other human would.
And it looked like shit.
So, I don't know if he did a good job or not, but it was definitely refreshing to see his parents in the mix.
For sure, dude. And I don't have anything else on that issue. I felt like that was just like a blip at the end of the book, and end of the story for me. Did you have any other takeaways from that, really?
Well, I think at the end of the issue, Supergirl finally decides to help Clark, despite what her boyfriend says. And just like, you know, he's getting his shit kicked in. I should probably help eventually. But outside of that, I think we covered everything. I guess we could roll into that last issue.
I wanted to make one note. That's where the weird thing happens. Maybe go back and look at that panel, but if you didn't realize it wasn't Supergirl before, you'll realize it in that issue when she actually helps him. Doomsday whoops her ass, and you literally see her falling, and then there's a whole literal panel where she looks like Play-Doh, and I'm like, what? She looks like some weird creature looking thing.
I do remember that.
Okay, so it's definitely not Supergirl. I already had a hunch, but what is this?
Maybe some research for us to do, but do you think that has anything to do with Crisis?
No.
Just her not being Supergirl?
No. I feel like that was just a plot point that went nowhere. Granted, I don't know. I can't confirm that, but I
think Doomsday hit her so hard she just turned into Play-Doh?
I don't know, man. I don't recall ever hearing about Matrix or fake Supergirl after this. Never really before this either. Didn't hear about it till during this. What was the purpose? Let's roll into the last issue and wrap this bad boy up. Starts off, Superman gives Lois a fat kiss. Then he goes hard. He says, I ride for my city. I die for my city. And Lois and Jimmy, they start getting in the way, as they tend to do, because they're trying to help their boy out, not making things any easier. But he says, you're gonna have to kill me if you want to put hands on my friends, Doomsday. And I wouldn't recommend saying that to him, because that's what he gonna do.
It was a great introduction to the last issue. Doomsday finally makes it to Metropolis, and you said there was that romantic cut between Clark and Lois. Jimmy even takes a picture of it. After that, it's just kind of bing bang boom between Doomsday and Clark.
Yeah, he says, I'm about to clap your cheeks. And they fight so hard that they both punch each other and meet in the middle, and they have like a sonic boom that just shatters all the windows. So it's just showing the gravity of how tough these bad boys is.
Okay, question for you.
What?
Sometime during this exchange in the last issue, Clark finally realizes that these crystals sticking out of his skin are his bones, and he breaks one off, and Doomsday's like clearly in pain. Like, why does it take him this long to kick in one of them bones?
I think it's because they were covered up until like the last issue, other than like the one arm. But then again, how did his suit cover all his bones? Wouldn't you see those poking out the suit?
Dude drinks way too much milk.
Yeah, yeah, dude. He's gonna get kidney stones with all that calcium. You know what I'm saying? He needs to chill out. But yeah, I know it took quite some time for him to figure out that the bones do something. He finally hurts him, knocks him out, but it's kind of anticlimactic in a way. Like
very anticlimactic.
The final blows happen so fast, and you barely can tell that they're the final significant blows. And he just kicks the bucket. He just lays down and he's like, I'm dead.
Oh man.
And that's it, bro. It's a wrap. Lois sheds one single tear and then boom.
So what's your conclusion for this whole arc? How many boobs would you give it? Would you add anything, subtract anything?
I thought I was actually going to go a little bit lower. I was when I was thinking back on this as a whole experience, but after talking through it, if we're going to go on a scale of 10,
boobs come in pairs.
Well, we're going to have a uniboob because I'd probably say like 6.5 or 7, man. It was good, but there were issues that were like, meh. There was fun. It wasn't a bad read by any means. It was way better than I thought it was going to be going into it. I was like, oh man, you see all of this just chilling in dollar bins for a reason. But no, that's literally just the print run. Like, the story's not bad. I'd say it started off really strong, kind of dipped towards the last little bit towards the end, and then the anticlimactic end kind of petered off. I'd say 6.5. I don't care if that's even or not. 6.5, because I think it's good. It's significant, but I think that there's a couple issues that bring the overall story down, but there's a lot of good, rewarding moments when reading this.
It was a lot more refreshing of a read than I thought it was. So maybe that weighs into my scale because, like I said earlier, it was more about the event of Superman dying and finally finding a foe that could challenge him physically. But it was also a lot better of a read than I thought it was, which it doesn't get enough credit for. So I might give it an 8 out of 10. I think everybody should read this run if you like DC comics, especially Superman comics, because it was a great origin and story to that character. However, the only thing I would add is that nobody explains why he's in this containment suit. So I wish they would have included that after the story came out. They expanded on his origin, why he was in that containment suit in the first place. But otherwise, it was a really entertaining read, and that's kind of what I look for in comics. So I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 boobs.
Nice. I can appreciate that. The only reason I didn't go higher is because I'm thinking that once we get down the line, my scale's going to adjust, and I can't be going too hard in the paint top heavy right now. But I do think it was good and it was worth a read. I think you'll see our scales play out as time goes on, but I'm not knocking this book at all. I think it's definitely essential reading. That's why we read it, just to make sure we had every issue of the story under our belt, because we probably read bits and pieces, but we need to get the whole thing under our belt if we want to really say we're real collectors. But I'd say it's definitely an educational tool, and it gives you a good view at who, what, and why Superman is. It's kind of just like a big testament to an all-time classic character.
And the character has Kryptonian DNA. So that was probably the reason why he was one of the only villains to really go toe-to-toe with Superman. Now, General Zod is one of the leaders of the Kryptonians, and he's obviously got DNA of Superman as well. But this was a genetic mutation that thrives in elements that
suck.
Yeah, exactly. And so every time he gets hurt, he gets stronger than he was before. So that would really honestly be the only way to kill Superman.
Because you think even at the height of Superman's powers, he can't beat what's stronger than him if he already kills Doomsday at his peak. That's pretty crazy. But yeah, all in all, good story. I think that wraps up our final thoughts on that book. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And we're going to recount our tale of the 4th of July and our annual comic swap and festivities.
We've been doing this for 6 years. And this is something we want to share with the comic book community or people that like comics. Every year around 4th of July, doesn't have to be the 4th of July, but we do a Christmas in July themed comic book swap where we buy a gift for each other. When you're collecting comics, it's easy when you do some research to know what you want and what you don't want. It's so refreshing to get a gift from somebody else because you have no idea what it's going to be. And that's what Berger and I have been doing since we've been collecting comics. It makes the whole culture that much more exciting doing this comic swap. So instead of doing it around Christmas time, we do it in July, and we're hoping that's an event that the comic book culture adopts.
You just grab your best buddy, and I'm sure you're talking shop, talking game about books and, the state of the industry and stuff like that on a regular basis anyways. Why not take it a step further? You're both trying to fill your key box or your short box or however you collect. You know what your buddies like. They know what you like. It's just like a little bit more fun. Some people buy a mystery box on the internet because, they want a surprise, but they want something new. They want to have that excitement of opening something. We started it out 6 years ago. And that's back when I was like an unseasoned collector. I was a little wet behind the ears on that one. But we're also small potatoes. We weren't buying huge books for each other. We're barely buying huge books for ourselves. We were college kids, just out of high school, just starting college. We didn't have a ton of money, so we started it in July. We thought, well, there's not too much going on. We already hung out on the 4th of July. Why don't we just come in together, make it one big extravaganza? It's definitely grown since then. It's a good time. I'm going to just go through a quick rundown. We can go ahead and just talk about any of these books once we wrap up with that. But I'm just going to go through year by year, just let you know the progress, the evolution of what our swap was.
The first year you got me a first appearance of the modern Ant-Man.
Yeah, Scott Lang.
And what I really liked about year 6, and we'll fill in the gap too, is that I got a first appearance of the Atom as my comic swap. And I thought that was really cool too, retrospectively, because you're kind of pairing Ant-Man to the Atom. A little bit of Marvel, a little bit of DC. Both are really cool characters. Ant-Man's role in the Avengers is a lot deeper than most people probably think it is. Ant-Man is a character that DC doesn't get enough credit for. It's been around for a long time. Such an iconic cover too, so I'm definitely very appreciative.
In hindsight now, it's like the Marvel
It's a cool
premiere.
juxtaposition.
I didn't even do that intentionally, and it's like the first year we didn't have as much cash. I remember that actually being a bigger book back then, the Scott Lang Ant-Man. I mean, it's not anymore, but back then it was, but that aged poorly. I mean, you still think it's cool and all. Compared to what you got me, yours held up, bro. I got a Batman 189 from you, and it's not a bad one at all. It's actually very clean. First Silver Age appearance of the Scarecrow, a classic Bat villain, and kind of helped started my Batman collection in a way. It's kind of like a cornerstone. I've had that from the get. It's always gonna be a good book, and it's always been a cool ass book. I remember being super geeked to get that, and I kind of felt bad about getting you a Scott Lang Ant-Man because it doesn't it's not the same same like echelon there.
And that's the thing with this hobby, right? That's not the intention, right? The intention is to pair somebody else with the comic book that you think they would like, something that you enjoy yourself. And what's really cool too is before you give this gift, you think about it. You're like, should I keep this and buy him another gift? And that's how you know it's real. When
right.
you would keep it yourself, but you're giving that to somebody else. It's part of the reason why comic book collecting is so fun.
For sure. Let's go into year 2, where I came away with like a real nice haul. I got a Fantastic Four 50, the ending of the Galactus trilogy, and I got issue 53, the origin and second appearance of Black Panther and the first appearance of Claw. And then Joe was lucky enough to receive an All-Star Western 11. The first Jonah Hex cover and second appearance. Granted, it's clean. I thought it was him, but compared to what he got me, it's another year where I was like,
Well, to touch on that a little bit, Jonah Hex was one of my favorite characters when I started reading comic books, and still is. I mentioned some of my favorite obscure characters in the last episode, and I didn't touch on Jonah Hex too much. He had a new run when New 52 came out, and I collected that. Fell in love with the characters. To have his first cover appearance and his origin story was a really cool buy-in for me, and it was a really cool cover. So even year 2, he's trying to downplay it, but it was a pretty cool book. And what I returned in the favor, I split it between 2 books. So one, he didn't get like a significant key issue, but
yeah,
he got a part of Fantastic Four history, because that issues 1 through 50 are some of the most iconic things to come out in comic books to today's.
They're not cheap now by any standards anyways. Those books you got me have blown up. Fantastic Four to like the first 55 issues have like appreciated greatly. I'm glad I got those then, because I had a 48, a 49, 52. I don't even know if I had all of those at that point. I feel like I did to receive those books. That really rounded out a big part of my collection, because not only did I get one Fantastic Four book, I got 2, and they're both keys and they both fill in the blank. So that was a big come up for my box too, which he kind of followed up with in year 3. He got me a Fantastic Four 39, a Medusa, or is it 36? Wow, I'm fuzzy on my numbering, but regardless, you got me a crispy first Medusa because you knew I was an Inhumans fan, and back then those things were hard to track down. Maybe I just didn't have a big enough wallet, which I didn't, but I feel like it wasn't, I could just go and find one. For some reason they were more elusive than they are today, and you came through really clutch with that one.
Old Fantastic Four, anything you get in high grade as far as that stuff goes is going to be a good investment.
And I remember walking down the street at this year 3 was at your old apartment when we were in college, and I remember trudging through the parking lot across the street, had the book in hand, and popped you up with Blue Beetle issue 1, the first appearance of the Question.
Yeah, now that threw me off surprise. And that's what I like about this thing that we're trying to push comic books into life. You can really throw somebody off, and it makes getting that issue so much more exciting, because the way I think about things now is if I want something bad enough, I'll pay for it. I'll figure out a way to get the money to buy it because I want it. Not often enough do you get things that you aren't necessarily looking for, but that are also really cool. So it's the allure of surprises. And that's kind of what year 3 was about. I was not expecting to get that book. And because my affinity for Watchmen, getting a first appearance of the Question was really cool.
I'm glad you liked it. That was the first year I felt like I hit a grand slam, because that was also the first year, if you guys couldn't tell, that I kind of stepped up my game. I was like, maybe I should get something cooler. That's also when I really started getting into the whole, I'm making this a surprise thing. I don't even care if he knows what the book is or if he wants a damn book. I'm going to find something that fits his box, his collection, and it's going to make sense, and it's going to kick ass, and it's going to be a good deal. From year 3 on, I actually feel good about what I've been bringing to the table. And it's like, that's not going to stop anytime soon, because we talked about this year was a whole...
all killer, no filler.
I mean, you've just been going hard the whole time, because year 4, you got me a Superman's pal, 134? A Darkseid cameo? First Darkseid, that's where it's at, bro. I'm a big DC fan, and Darkseid is one of the best villains of any comic company. He's up there with the likes of, Magneto, Doctor Doom, the Joker, stuff like that. He's cooler than Thanos. I have Thanos' first appearance too, but there's something way cooler about Darkseid. He came first. It's a Kirby creation. He looks like a giant rock man. He just kicks ass, and he goes toe-to-toe with Supes. Apocalypse is sweet. The way they spell it's goofy as all hell, but it's all just sweet. And it's just like, I got a nice copy. It presents very well. It's not leaving the box anytime soon. That was one of my first Superman books too. I didn't have a lot in the way of Superman stuff up until that point.
What made that kind of more affordable too, because Thanos definitely fetches more money, especially now with the Avenger movies, is that he's a tricky character in the sense that we don't have a firm grasp on his first appearance. In that issue, it's probably the most iconic issue to Darkseid, but he'll appear for like a page on a panel in one issue, and then he'll say his name on another. He didn't really have like a solid first appearance, but there's kind of a book that comic book collectors lean towards as being his first appearance. So that's kind of where I got my idea to get that book.
And he was just literally a little head on a TV. It did the trick. It introduced the character, and his first full appearance was in Forever People 1, which we both have both issues of, because we believe that Darkseid is worth not only investing in, but is one of like the coolest villains to have.
And then that's the year that you kind of dressed up my gift too, right? Was that the year that you got me Hawkman?
Yeah, Hawkman issue 1 from his first solo series in the Silver Age, and Pa Kent action figure.
So I already had his first Silver Age appearance. It's always good when you're collecting comics to have a first issue of a series. So when he finally got a solo run sometime in the Silver Age, that was the book that I received, the first issue of Hawkman. Really cool cover. Came in a really cool Justice League bag, and I even got an action figure, which I've never had before. I don't know that I'll collect action figures, but it was kind of cool to throw that in there too, especially Pa Kent, because of my affinity for Superman stuff. Having Pa Kent action figure was definitely the best action figure to add to my collection if I ever have one.
I was like, well, he's not an action figure guy, but I was just looking around the comic book store, and I was just like, it'd be kind of goofy, but it'd be hilarious. What would Pa Kent do? And so I was just like, screw it. We're going to do a bundle. And
we'll have to get some wristbands. What would Pa Kent do?
Then year 5 is when we took it to a whole nother level. I'm on a new level. We literally just both went went to a Comic-Con. We were at Motor City Comic-Con in Novi and suburbs of Detroit area. We both agreed haphazardly during the middle of it that we're going to just do the swap. We're going to just blow our wad there, and we're just going to give each other the books we find there. So that was a little different. It was a little more impromptu. It worked out for the best. We came away with some major hauls, and also partially from being like financially irresponsible, but in like a good way. We kind of bartered a deal almost. It wasn't as surprising as it was. We almost bartered, but like to both profit. I don't feel like we ripped each other off. I feel like we both came away with like heavy hitter books. Because I remember you were looking at getting me a first appearance of Morbius, which would have been dope in the collection. But I had literally wandered to the other end of the showroom and just bought a major key. I was already planning on giving you one key as like a surprise later, but I bought one book as a major key. I was like, well, I'm keeping that for myself. And then I bought you another book to pair with the surprise book. I ended up spilling the beans on what I got. I was going to give you the Green Lantern John Stewart first appearance, and I was going to give you a signed Ra's al Ghul Batman 232. But if you want this Green Lantern 76 ushering in the Bronze Age nice and crispy, we're going to get a big book out of this, right? And you're like, well, it's up to you. And I'm like, your call, brother. Dude bought me a 2.0 Amazing Spider-Man Annual Issue 1, first Sinister Six, and like second and third appearances of like all the major villains. We bartered a crazy deal. I got one massive book out of the deal, and it's insane. Still looking at it, I'm like, damn, how did I get that? Got you 3 books, which were probably, any one of those individually was bigger than any of the other books I'd got you prior.
I'm still grateful.
And now you're hanging out on Green Lantern Corner, which who would have thought?
Who would have thought? I've never been like a Green Lantern fan in general, but now I got a monopoly on a lot of the first appearances as far as Green Lantern comics go. Part of that too is I've always been a Neil Adams fan, and Neil Adams did a lot of the art for the Green Lantern stuff. Berger knows I like old DC stuff. That was probably one of our more successful years yet.
Looking back, I only got you one Marvel book. Year 3 was Charlton, but is now owned by DC. So really, year 1 is the only Marvel book I got you. That's kind of funny.
We lean DC heavy.
Yeah, I mean, clearly. But no, I mean, that's just what we like. We like Marvel too. You've gotten me Marvel books. Like, it's almost like every other year you swap. Actually, you got me more Marvel than DC. You got me 2 DC books and the rest were Marvel. And I got you 1 Marvel book and the rest were DC. Dope. And you touched on it a little bit for this year, year 6, our most recent swap. You got a Showcase 34, first appearance of the second Atom. Ray Palmer, probably the best known Atom, other than like the Golden Age Atom, who's not really like the Atom that we know today. And then I got an Amazing Spider-Man 41. So he doubled up on the Spider-Man train and got me a first appearance of the Rhino, which goes harder than paint because I haven't got a Spider-Man book probably since I got the Spider-Man Annual a year ago. And it's perfect in the collection. Slides right in between the Scorpion and the Kingpin. And it's just like heavy hitters now. That's exactly what my collection needed. And it's a nice one, dude. It's a 3.5. Put that baby in a Mylar. It's looking good.
We have a spending limit every year. There's a certain amount that we're comfortable spending and swapping. And that just completely fit the budget. As a character that I thought kind of represented his personality, it was a no-brainer for me to get him a first appearance of the Rhino. The old Fantastic Four books hold very strongly as far as collectors go, collectors issues. Spider-Man has some of the best villains in Marvel. Getting him something a part of that universe, old Spider-Man issue, is never a bad investment.
We just wanted to kind of share that with you. I kind of took like the long history. We wasn't very abbreviated. We touched on everything one at a time, just letting you know how things progress. And something like maybe if you like collecting keys, whether it's minor or huge, you don't got to spend a lot. You and a friend come up with a budget, pick a day, do like a blind swap. Most of the fun for me is just having the surprise, playing mental games, being like, you have no clue what book I got you, and you're never going to find out.
The beauty of it is it can be $10. There's such a range in comic books and first appearances and where they stand financially. So there's a myriad of different ways that people can get involved, and that's the allure of it. You don't have to have a certain budget to collect. There's a range. Definitely a fun holiday is what we'll label it, to share with somebody else.
We'd love to hear any of your input. If you follow us on any social media platforms that you may use, you can go to CBJ Pod on both Instagram and Twitter. You can go ahead and check us out on any of those. We do also have a YouTube page, CBJ Pod, and we'll be posting content there as well. Please tune in and follow, like, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on what you like that we're doing, what we don't, any ideas you want to share with us, or hey, even just say, hey, what's up? We're going to start chugging on to our next program.
Next episode, we're going to be touching on Infinity Gauntlet. It's about time that we finally bring something Marvel into the mix. We don't mean to deceive you. We actually really like Marvel. Marvel comic. It's important that we bring some Marvel into the mix because what they lack for in comics, they make up for